Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue watching Geoffrey and Varya on 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 days. As I said in an earlier episode, I had a dilemma about whether or not to even talk about these two because of the allegations that Geoffrey is a person who has committed atrocious domestic violence, intimate partner violence crimes in the past, high control over his previous partners. And so I thought that I would react as I normally do, but I would also sprinkle in knowledge about intimate partner violence and possibly psychopathy and any antisocial personality disorder. I don't know if the allegations are true about Geoffrey. Maybe some of you do know. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a crime specialist, so I don't know. But given what we can read on the internet, as reliable as that is, if these allegations are true, then we're looking at someone who has probably a long-term pattern of violence and high control and concerning emotional reactivity to jealousy or distance or lack of control or something. And so I just want to point that out. And I'm going to refrain from diagnosing Geoffrey as I refrain from diagnosing everyone on this show because I can't diagnose from afar. I don't really want to diagnose from afar. I would need to treat people. I'd need to really have a number of sessions with people to really get to know them before I could diagnose them with anything. So I just want to say that up front as well. But anyway, let's get to the show.
I don't know what your intentions are.
My intentions? What do you mean?
Last night, you said you stopped working on your house the moment you started talking to me back months and months ago. It just makes me think that from the very moment that you started talking to me, you started planning to go to America.
No.
That's how I felt, especially after you said,
Okay.
I am an opportunity.
That's not a bad word. I said it's a big opportunity to move to America, plus you.
Did you see the order that you said those in? You said the opportunity to come to America, and then there's you.
So he seems to be exhibiting more of that insecurity, that worry, that attachment insecurity. From my take of what she said, she was saying there's both. There's this and there's that. There's you and there's also America. But he focused on the order in which they were presented. And I'm guessing it's because he feels very worried. He feels very afraid. And so he's focusing on certain things as evidence of why he should be afraid. When a more differentiated stance would be, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I just want to let you know that I'm freaking out. It has nothing to do with you. You've been reassuring. You've been really nice. I don't have any reason to distrust you, but I just want to tell you that I'm really afraid. So if you could do anything to make me feel less afraid, that would be great. Certainly is not a requirement. That would be a more differentiated stance of owning your feelings, not blaming the other person, not accusing the other person.
If we don't work out, is on to the next American?
I don't like the way you're speaking with me. We both just trying to find our soulmates. That's not my fault that you are an American.
Since Varya was the one that reached out to me, I'm wondering now she's actually reaching out to a lot of other American men and just trying to get to America. They're just trying to get a green card, and I'm the only one that took the bait.
It's interesting that a lot of these people on the show will have this turn where when they're online and not in the same country, everything's roses, everything's great, this is my soulmate, I'm going to propose. And then they meet and the circumstances haven't changed at all. There's no new data aside from the apartment, being not renovated, which I guess might be a big deal. But all of a sudden, everything's off. It's like, oh my God, she's just in it for the green card. Whereas before, that was, totally not a possibility in his mind. And so it makes me wonder if there's some kind of psychological profile of these sorts of people where their attachment insecurities manifest in a defense around, well, people in my town, I'm guessing if we actually are to date in my country, things aren't going to go well because of one reason or another. I could only speculate. But I met this person online, and the only reason why we haven't really had a connection yet is because we're star-crossed lovers. We're Romeo and Juliet separated by so many miles. And it builds up that love feeling and that over optimism that I was talking about in another episode. And then when you meet, then all that goes away, and the reality of the relationship sets in, and then the reality of being dumped and being hurt and being harmed by the other person becomes very visceral to the other person.
I guess my question is, do you like me?
Yeah.
Are you
I
starting to
don't
like
like
me?
your question, but I like you. You know, there is a famous Russian fairy tale about the man who shoot his arrow nowhere to find his love. This arrow comes to a frog, and the man was sad because the frog, not a princess, but this frog became a princess, a real good wife. So I'm not a frog, of course, but I'm a potential love. I want you to trust your arrow, and I want you to trust me.
I really like that that fairy tale, and she's doing, I think, a really good job of trying to get to the heart of the matter, of that I like you and you can trust me. So I think that's going to work for Geoffrey.
I wanted to explain to you my thoughts. I wanted to tell you my feelings and clear the air, but I'm gonna trust you. Let's go have fun, okay?
Yeah.
Again, we have these potential allegations that are on the internet, God knows if it's true, that he has been horrifically violent with previous wives in the past, and even sexually violent with people, and that he has a broad range of criminal acts that he's done over the his past. He's been to prison. And so in light of that, if those allegations are true, which I don't know, how does that match up with this behavior we see here today before us? The way I would interpret this is, if I didn't know about the intimate partner violence and the other crimes, I wouldn't suspect him of those kinds of things based on what we've seen thus far. So how do we bring those two together? Now, I think some people are like, oh, he gives a vibe of a terrible person. I don't know. I don't really pick up on that. Maybe y'all have some other different radar or a better radar to that than I do. But how do we put those two together? Well, it's possible, total speculation, that I'll just talk about people that I've treated, where they suffer from either borderline traits or borderline personality disorder or preoccupied attachment or some sort of attachment insecurity due to relational traumas in the past of abandonment or abuse or something. And they want closeness, and any indication of it not happening, they really have a distressful reaction, a complex PTSD reaction. They're very distressed, very hypervigilant. And so the little hurts that other people would feel become very, very big hurts to them. And when you're very, very hurt, then you can be very angry because you're like, I can't believe how much you just hurt me. You match that up with substance abuse, like alcohol, other kinds of substances, and that can produce erratic, violent behavior in people. So I've treated people like that before, where they might present like this, where they exhibit that insecurity. And if there were no substances, then they would have been mildly coercive, but you throw substances into the mix, and then they become completely dysregulated in those moments, and they will act out the violence that they will normally keep at bay, or they'll act out the anger and aggression that they will normally keep at bay. But when they're intoxicated, it all comes flooding out and becomes extremely problematic. I've seen that before. I have no idea if that's the case with Geoffrey, but I've treated people like that before who exhibit this kind of behavior.
Maybe I'm not giving this girl a fair shake. Maybe I'm coming at her with disbelieving eyes, or I've been jaded so much from my own past that I'm taking out my past onto her.
Are you a good driver?
So kudos to Geoffrey for having that insight. He's like, maybe I've just become so hurt and jaded by my past that I'm, reading into things that aren't really true with Varya. So, that's good. He's taking responsibility for his emotions, his overreactivity. He's admitting that. He's, at least in an interview, not blaming her. He's able to admit that. That's a good sign.
I just hope that she's not going to hurt me. I guess time will tell. I love it. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining me out there. Please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.